Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. I have a garage V8 Technique in UK West Midlands. And in this video we will be working on an Audi SQ7. Unfortunately, this Audi SQ7 is in a TDI version, so on the fender it says V8 but it's missing the D and I. I prefer these more in the petrol than diesel. I don't know why people are actually buying diesel versions, but it is what it is. It doesn't have actually problem with the engine or gearbox or anything like that, but probably you can tell from the footage of the car sitting quite low, so there's a problem with the air suspension. And also when I was moving the car around, there's a warning light for the brake pad, so we have to check the brakes all the way around, what's the condition of those. And primary, we will be probably installing the immobilizer as well into this vehicle. I will put it on the ramp. Before actually we're gonna do anything, I have to plug it on the diagnostic, see what are the fault codes and what's the overall condition, what we will do with it. Also in this video we have a Audi A8 in a 3-liter TDI, and the engine is leaking everything and everywhere, so that is in the process of engine removal at the moment. We will do timing change as well and some other stuff, so stay tuned, maybe interesting video coming up. Compressor dead. Okay, so let's check the fault codes. We are in the engine ECU. We have electric compressor, electrical malfunction. Sounds more like a mechanical malfunction. And okay. So we have a bit of an issue to get to the level control. There's no response from the control module, and I'm not sure what's going on. There's definitely a fault on the cluster, there's definitely a fault in the engine ECU saying there's electrical malfunction. So I believe we have to put it on the ramp, and the only thing what we can actually do is check it. Okay guys, so the car's on the ramp now, and this is the shield for the air compressor. As you can tell inside, it is moving quite a lot. I'm not sure why is that. Maybe it's easing up, maybe the holder is broken, nobody knows, we have to check it. But yeah, let's take the cover off, we will see. Okay guys, so on the beginning I disconnect all the connectors going control unit and compressor, because these sort of cars might end up in the water or somewhere quite deep, and it's not really secure cover unit, it's just outside with some kind of a heat shield, so there might be a problem that the water get in. But from what I can see, everything looks dry and nothing is corroded. So the problem is we can't read the level control, so we will check the fuses next and the relays. Okay guys, so what we can tell for now is that the compressor is definitely dead, and we still can't actually get to the level control. So the next step will be check all the fuses. There's fuses here, then we have more fuses over there, more fuses over there. Also, the owner of the vehicle told me there was some electric problems before the car got to us, and there was some mouse or rats or something moving around here. So I'm not sure if these fuses were replaced, but we checked them already, they're good, so we have to check the rest of them now. Okay guys, so the 3-liter TDI from the Audi A8 is removed. They've done it really quickly. He's really quick at this job at the moment. So as soon as you're just gonna have a look to the left, you have a look to the right and the engine is out. Engine removal took him, let's say, I don't know, one working day really. The A8 is done a bit of a different way with all the wiring, loom and everything what he's done so far. But it is out, and as you can probably tell from the engine condition, it is in a sad condition, especially from the front. If you have a look at the condition, there was definitely a coolant leak, what we know, and we will be actually replacing the timing chain job, which will be the primary job, and then the secondary job will be strip the whole front end, so the oil filter housing will come off, water pump, the whole front plate, and also they will be stripping the V of the engine, so the inlet manifold with the EGR will be coming off, and oil cooler of course, because I'm not sure if you're gonna see it, but somewhere there inside, maybe over here, you can see how the coolant was leaking out. So we have a major coolant leak. Also, when I'm looking at the front crankshaft pulley, these are known to fail on any other car really, because you have like a rubber damper in between these two metal parts, and you can see how it's splitting already. So I think this is a matter of time till it's gonna go. Looking at the front bolts, they look a bit scary. I'm really hoping they will come off with no issues. And yeah, the main problem is from the front of the engine. From the back, there's no major leaks or anything. That looks pretty good to me, especially from the timing chain covers and rocker covers. There was no diesel leak from the injectors or anywhere like that. However, from rear crankshaft seal probably, and the rear plate closer to the bottom, it is leaking a bit oil, but it's not that bad what it used to be leaking. When it comes to the suspension arms, the owner did told us there's a funny noise coming from the suspension arms, what I can approve, because I drove the car before we strip it, and especially when you're going over speed humps, it was like a rubber bushing squeaking. But you can probably tell that these arms were replaced 2019 and 20, so they're not that old. The top ones are the same. However, I'm not sure about the drop links, because listen to this. I think this is the noise what we hear, so that will be replaced, and also we will be doing gearbox service afterwards, so stay tuned. Dave was mostly working on the A8. He was helping me with my oil roll to sort out the steering wheel and some other things, so thank you very much anyways. And he managed to actually do quite a lot of work on the A8 still, separate the gearbox with the engine, the subframe is off, the engine is pretty much stripped down from the top. He still got a few things what needs to be removed, like the rocker covers, rear timing chain covers, the front end plate, but mainly he can get the V, which was quite labor wise not that easy, because the silly loom and everything is in way. But mostly, unless we find out why the coolant was actually leaking, and again, I think it was a human error. Let me show you why. As you can probably tell, the whole middle of the V is filled with coolant. The reason for that is because, look, there's a silicone, and that silicone meant to be on this pipe because somebody was really cheap and didn't want to replace O-ring for £2, which is actually quite sad, because the £2 O-ring will save you loads of labor, as you can probably tell. So we have everything here ready on the table to actually go on this. I'm really hoping we're not missing anything. In case we are missing, we just have to get it from TPS again. It's quite loads of small things what's going on, especially all the gaskets and some housings and stuff. But mainly we still have to strip the whole front end of the engine, where's the plate. So the water pump will be coming off, the oil filter housing will be coming off, which have to be replaced as a whole unit because you can't get the gasket and it's a thermostat at the same time. And we will be replacing the pulley, what I mentioned. However, this is a common problem on these 3-liter TDI engines, I suppose. We've done quite loads of them, and most of the time it is the oil cooler which is leaking, because it will fill up that much that it will be leaking from here to down over there. Also, we already come to a situation when the front plate was actually leaking, because it is holding just on a metal gasket screwed onto the block. So sometimes it might happen that it's not leaking in the middle, but it's leaking from the front plate. Anyways, this job what we're doing at this moment for the middle of the V and the front, it's possible to do it on the car, especially on a Q7, because you have loads of space in the front. So you don't really even have to remove the front end. It should be accessible as it sits in the car, in the condition as it is. However, we're doing a full service. We're doing a big service on the engine after 100,000 miles or something like that. But mainly the owner, he will be using the car for traveling around Europe. So he wants to have a nice clean engine put into the chassis, and he wants to just use it for long journeys without any issues. So that's why we are doing everything at once. Of course, labor-wise, material-wise, is not really cheap, but from the perspective of doing it, it's the best option to do, because it's done all at once, and you can use the car 100%. You don't have to be worried about anything what can fail. So they still have to strip the back end so we can get to the chains. There wasn't actually a very long timing chain rattle, but there was oil leak coming from the back of the engine, which I believe was the crankshaft, but it was already cleaned up, so I don't have a footage. But when we will remove the plate, maybe we will see some oil spots still over there. So that will be all replaced, including the job. And here we have everything what we need for this kind of a job. So you can tell there's quite loads of gaskets for the rocker covers, intake, the bit gasket for the front plate, another rocker cover gaskets for the injectors, another gaskets. This is probably a rocker cover. No, this is housing. So we will be showing you everything what's going on. It's a video for the owner as well, so he knows what he's paying for. And again, we're using everything genuine. Of course, if you want to cut corners, you can get some kind of O-ring set for that engine. However, we did try to use many years back some aftermarket gaskets for these engines, and there was always a problem. People called us like, oh, I can smell oil, oh, I can smell this, maybe it's leaking something, this and that. So I think for the extra money to have it safe, we always use genuine gaskets, because from all the experience what we've got, this is probably the best value for the money what you can get. And mainly we want to do the job so it's going back to the car for quite a long some time, and you don't have to do anything afterwards. Of course, everything have warranty, so whatever we do and people contact us in case there's a problem, we always try to take the car back and have a look what's going on and what failed and why, and try to get to the bottom of it. So yeah, they went home and it's 6 o'clock, so that means to me I can finally start working and doing something. And obviously I did manage to sort out the SQ7, so I can finally get to the air suspension ECU. And tomorrow we will have an air compressor coming in, brakes all the way around. So I'm gonna put the car back on the ramp, and I will start stripping down the wheels and probably remove the disc parts, get ready for a replacement, remove the air compressor. And on the end of the video we can probably tell you how much it costs to run an SQ7 for a basic service, let's call it. Okay guys, so when the owner dropped the car down to us, he obviously mentioned he needs parts replacing, and then I put my little finger inside and look at the edge. So I think if we will put just parts, they will be grinding, making funny noises and so on and so on. And this is the outer side. The inner side is even worse. Have a look at that. That is a huge lip. So I told them like, I think you will need this and pads, you know, which he said, okay. And I did get it priced up in a few other companies than TPS. And we can get the parts, we can't get the disc because it's quite a big disc, to be honest. And we end up with genuine. The price is not the lowest, but I think it's worth it to go genuine unless you're planning to go for a bigger setup, which I think is not necessary for a TDI engine. Of course, the engine is torquey and this and that, but obviously I think these brakes are sort of good for the vehicle. And of course, we are using genuine premium, which is the better quality. You have the same coating as this one have, so it shouldn't get rusty that quickly. And from our experience, just genuine are the best option unless you're planning to do some silly stuff with it. So let's strip it down. We will see the condition of the disc from the other side and we will see. Okay guys, so I don't want to be a smart guy or anything, but this is the stage of the disc, especially the lip from inside. And as you can probably tell how it's reflecting, especially over here, you can see how the disc is basically oval a bit. Also from the brake part, this is the inner one, you can see how it's not equally grinded down. So, of course, every single time when we have a customer coming in and he will tell me, oh, can you just replace the brake parts? I'm like, yeah, sure, just give me a second. And I always do this. You can feel the lip, you can hear the lip. And I always warn everyone like, okay, you can just get away with the new pads, or, you know, I think you can just replace whatever. But if I'll warn someone like, look, there's a big lip, and if we're just going to put new brake parts, what might happen is that how they will be grinding in to this beautiful surface, they will be squeaking, they will be making funny noises, there will be loads of brake dust on the beginning while they grind in because the surface is unequal. Yeah, you can see it on the reflection, is not equally grinded down, especially it's oval. So we already have a few occasions when I warned the owner of the vehicle, like, you need this and pads. I'm like, nah, I just gotta put new pads on. So we installed new pads, of course. The car left. Not 2 weeks later, not even that, phone call. Oh, I don't think you've done the job properly because they're making funny noise, blah, 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 blah. So I told them, yeah, of course, mate, no problem. Come down, we'll have a look at it. So while the customer was here, I stripped one caliper off and I showed them the new parts, how it was grinding against the disc. And guess what? He was like, oh, well, we have to get a disc as well, and we will use the pads that you installed 2 weeks ago. And I was like, mate, look at the lip, yeah? You just can't put the pads that are already grinded into the disc, which is not good again. So unfortunately, buy cheap, buy twice, always work. And he ended up with new pads again with discs, which is not in this case. This owner of SQ7 was like, you know what, go ahead, I trust you. And obviously, whatever we tell to the customer, like genuine premium is good, there's a reason why we say it's good. I have my own personal donkey, Passat, it's 2006. And obviously for a 800 quid value vehicle, I installed 400 quid brakes, genuine premium, back in 2016. And guess what, 45,000 miles later, I still have them on the vehicle. If I'm going to be working on the Passat, I'll show you the state of the brakes, how they look like. So in this case, the owner is a very smart owner and he decided he will go for genuine premium as well. And obviously decent parts, because like I said, this is no chance he will get away just with the parts. So we will clean up everything, especially the caliper, from all the brake dust, and we can move to the back ones when we have to open the rear caliper electronically with VCDS, and we will see what's the condition of the rear axle.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Okay guys, so look what happened. Surprise, surprise. I never strip the compressors down, to be honest. Usually they seized up or they just burn and they cooked inside. But I stripped down this one just to, you know, check it, what's going on, and especially for you might be interesting, like what's inside the compressor, where there's loads of these small balls, which I believe is some kind of a dryer compound. So how the air is coming in, and there's probably humidity is just drying up all the air which is coming to the system, so the shock absorbers from inside won't get rusty. And like I said, I just stripped down the air compressor just to find out what actually failed. So I think the electric motor was still working because you heard it working, but obviously it was really loud and it was shaking. So this was the sound what was making when it was running. And obviously this is the piston which is in this chamber inside over there, and by turning it, and it's going up and down like a normal combustion engine, yeah, it's making basically high pressed air through the system, through the valves, some kind of relief valve. And yeah, probably the bearing fell apart. These are the bits what actually came out. So I believe in the middle there used to be a bearing which is not there anymore. So all that will be replaced. We'll put a new compressor over there. Yeah, I gotta clean up my table because I didn't expect there'll be so many things inside there. The day after we stripped the SQ7, I still have to clean up all the calipers and everything, and then we can start installing the new discs and pads, and all the accessories will arrive. So we have a brake sensor here for the pads. We have some other accessories for the pads. Everything is new. These are the springs which are holding it in place against the caliper. All the brakes, discs and pads are the premium quality, so the better quality, and of course new bolts for the discs and new bolts for the rear calipers, and we also have new bolts for the front calipers. So everything was here, it's from TPS. What they suggest in the system needs replacing will be replaced. Also we have a new air compressor here already, so that will be installed. And I think we will start putting the brakes back on, then we will install the compressor, and we have to do the basic settings, so let's get to it. So we clean up the caliper as much as we can. We have all the accessories installed. Originally there was only one spring on the top, don't know why, but according to TPS there should be top and the bottom one. So I installed basically two of them on each caliper. And we have new pads which are made in Germany, but I don't know who's making them. And obviously you have written on them which one is inner right and which one is outer right. So you can mess up, and we will put a new disc on there and put it back together. Okay guys, so the new air compressor is on. We still have to test it and check it and do basic settings. The rear is finished with new pads, disc, everything is tight, cleaned up, greased. Also the front, So all 4 of them have new sensor, of course, for the brake pad. These new springs and everything was cleaned up as well, greased and done, sorted. So I think we can put the wheels back on, put the car down, and we will test the new compressor. The car is off the ramp, almost off the ramp. I left it a bit still on the lift for one reason, because there's absolutely no air in the system, and obviously I don't want to damage the air struts or anything like that. So we have to put it on the diagnostic. I still have to deactivate the service mode for the rear parts replacement, and we have to force the compressor to put a bit of air in the system so it will get unleashed to some kind of a base level, and then we can fully put it down and we will do basic settings for the height. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay.
And the SQ7 is finally finished, guys, so I did install the immobilizer. Let me just quickly show you how it's actually working in this SQ7 or Q7s. So we have a list what kind of buttons you can actually select as an emergency pin. So all this is selectable. You can choose from 4 to 16 pin. And obviously in this case, this is a version Pro, so you can pair it with the mobile phone as well, which is much more comfortable than pressing the buttons all the time. So the car will start, but it will not select any gear, as you can see. So I'm doing whatever I want with the gear lever, putting the handbrake down, but the car will not engage any gear. That means you just can't literally move it, and the engine is still running. So if we will insert the pin, in this case, because I don't have it paired with the mobile phone yet, obviously it will disarm the immobilizer with the pin which is pre-select, and it will allow you to select the gear so you can finally move the car. So when you will put the pin in, or you will sit in the car with the mobile phone which is paired with the vehicle, the hazard lights will flash to actually confirm that the pin was selected correctly or the device is in range. And after you start up the car, in this case, you will be able to select all the gears again. So the immobilizer is fitted. We're just going to wait for the owner, pair it with his phone, and it's good to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No new gasket.
No, it's not on there.
Fucking hell,
That's
yo.
on there.
While I was working on the SQ7, Dave was still working on the V8 TDI from the Audi A8. As you can see, he's got plenty of work to do. So he's removing everything from the front end, the front crankshaft pulley which will be replaced for a new one, the front plate which was leaking from underneath, and we'll be replacing all the gaskets and all the plastic fittings which are really common to leak on these vehicles. So new gasket is coming on, along with the clean front plate, new front crankshaft seal with the pulley, and a new crankshaft pulley with water pump. Also we have to replace the oil filter housing, which is not the best because obviously they are not selling the gasket individual. We have to buy the whole housing with the filter and the thermostat at the same time. So all that was fitted, everything was sorted and tied to the Newton meter spec, and after that we can finally move on to the timing chain. So you can see this is the second generation of the V8 TDI, where the camshafts and the whole setup is sorted a bit different way than on the third generation of the engine, what we've done in the previous video. So Dave is removing all the timing chain covers, and I must say that all the brackets and the chains were not in a bad condition. However, the oil tensioner was rattling a bit, especially on a cold startup when the vehicle was standing for a long time. We are making our way to the timing chain. There's quite loads of things and bolts what needs to come off, so it's quite time consuming actually to do the whole timing chain work, like just fit the new chains and set up, do the timing correctly. It's probably one all day. So Dave is putting the engine in the correct timing position, and once that all sorted, we will reveal the whole timing chain setup. So as you can see, it doesn't look that bad, but as a prevention, the owner did want to replace it anyways, because like I said, he bought the car recently and he want to have it sorted 100% so he can use the car, especially on the longer journeys around Europe and stuff. So after everything was inspected and cleaned up again, they will be installing the new timing chain setup, which is 2 chains, all the brackets, tensioners and the gears along with new bolts. And after everything was fitted, we're just gonna turn the engine a few times and we can basically finish it off, which means put everything back together. Like I'm mentioning in every video, whatever we are removing, we are replacing with a new gasket, O-rings. So we try to prevent any kind of leaks in the future. And we don't really like when people try to cut the corners and try to silicone things down. It's not the proper way to do it. So that's why the price for this kind of a service, it is quite expensive, because we are replacing absolutely everything what needs to be replaced, and especially whatever TPS advise us that we need to replace, we are buying everything to the last bolt. Otherwise they will not provide us with a warranty for the material in the future. So the job is quite a big service on this sort of 3 liters, and usually we are providing this kind of a service from a weekend to another weekend, which means if you drop the car on a Saturday and we are only doing a prevention, so nothing unexpected will happen, you can actually get the car back the next Saturday. So it's a one whole working week. And as you can tell, there is quite loads of things and quite loads of small details. So after everything was put back together, we're just gonna put the gearbox back on along with the subframe, exhaust, and the engine can go back into the vehicle.
So the A8 was already started, so Dave is finishing the whole engine trays and all the covers. We're still waiting for the gearbox service to come. Meanwhile, we have Mr. Patrick coming down here to clean up the SQ7, so the customer is paying quite loads of money for the brakes actually, so we decide as a extra or including the price, we will do like a small wallet for him, because especially from inside it's quite dirty, so hopefully it will make him a bit happy. And yeah, the immobilizer was installed in the SQ7, also in the A8. I will show you once they're on the wheels how they're actually working. Then we can go for a small spin around the corner, double check everything. And I think afterwards the customers can collect the vehicles.
The gearbox bits finally has arrived, so we are draining out the gearbox oil first of all. The engine actually warmed up the whole gearbox, so it's coming out as a warm oil, which is actually better to be drained out from the box. And the whole gearbox set is basically containing the strainer, which is inside the gearbox. It's like a filter. You have to drop the sump off to actually do it properly, otherwise if it's just drain out and put new oil, it doesn't make too much sense really. And of course this is the strainer with the magnets, very important element of the gearbox. Every single time when you put in back the new strainer with the magnets, you have to properly clean them, or ideally even replace them. So in this case they were just cleaned up. You can see how much soot they actually catch over the years. So the whole problem is that the oil get more and more contaminated if they can't catch more and more debris. So everything was replaced, everything was put back together, tied to the Newton meter spec, and it was filled up afterwards while the engine was running to have the correct oil level in the gearbox.
So the SQ7 has left the building, everything was done. The owner was quite happy, I would say. So the immobilizer, as you've seen, it's working quite good, and obviously it's definitely better to have some kind of a bars on the steering wheel and so on and so on. I didn't want to really drive the SQ7 too much. It's obviously remapped. I took it home once to actually test the brakes a bit and obviously run them in a bit for like 5-6 miles, just to double check everything so there's no lights on the cluster or anything. Before the car was collected, we have a Patrick, our friend, coming down here. He's done a small wallet on the car inside out, so the car looks much cleaner than before. The owner was quite happy with it, like I said. We still have the Audi A8 here where everything was done. So we've done the timing change, the middle valley was basically resealed, injector gaskets also there was done, gearbox service as you've seen, and obviously have a bit of a problem. So we left the car running on the ramp, and after a couple of hours there was a coolant leaking from the middle again. So the small flange where we replaced just the gasket was basically slightly broken, whereas the plastic valve, so that was replaced. The customer is not paying any extra money for the labor or material really, because it's not his fault. It's not even our fault, it's just one of them. It will happen. There's so many components what can actually go wrong. But it was all sorted. We also replaced the drop links because there was some funny squeaking noise coming from the suspension when you went over the speed humps. So I'm gonna test that now, and I also want to show you the immobilizer which is installed in the 8. So let's get in the car. I have my key with me, as you can see, it's working. And the funny thing about this immobilizer on the A8 is, so if I have the key in there and I'll press the button, nothing will happen. So the car's acting like there's no key or something is really wrong with it. It will not even allow you with the clone key to actually, light up the cluster or anything, and you can't even move it. So obviously if this immobilizer was paired with my phone at the moment, which is not because I'm waiting for the owner to collect the vehicle, you will jump in the car, close the door, the device will recognize your phone, which is paired with the immobilizer. The hazard lights will flash only in the interior to confirm it's you, and by pressing the button it will come on and everything will be working. So I didn't pair it with my phone because obviously I did test it, but I have my own car there. When I jump in the car, all I have to do is press the button, put the pin in for emergency use, or your phone will die or whatever will happen to your phone. You can just press it, everything will come on, we can start the vehicle. There you go. So there is loads of people saying like, oh, what if your phone will get stolen and this like that. So obviously these days, at least what I know with the Apples and some other phones, the phones are pretty much useless when they're stolen. I'm not sure if you can unlock them. And the other thing is you can track your phone down. And obviously, loads of people don't really reconnect their phone with the car. So the phone is sort of, for me, the comfort, because I don't have to be pressing the buttons all the time. And without doing absolutely anything, you're just going to jump in the car, you can drive off straight away. So the app is working pretty simple. You can add or remove any users, as I mentioned. So actually, we are installing these immobilizers quite a lot, and they are working really well. People are happy with them. So we don't have like a sort of different price. We are installing so far every single car for one price, which is $399 including fitting. And yeah, it's pretty cool device. We don't really want to judge people if you have a Lamborghini or Skoda or whatever. We try to have a look at the car and, you know, see how it's connected to it. But usually, like I said, it's only one price. So I will test drive the car now, and we're just gonna go around the corner. We'll double check everything. On the end of the video, we will go through all the prices what we've done on the SQ7 and the V8. So let's go on the roads. Okay, so speed hub incoming, check. Oh yes, no more squeaking noise. So I'm actually very happy that the drop link has sorted out the problem. It was a bit of a tricky to tell the owner like what's the problem, because there's quite lots of components, as you probably know. It can be the shock absorber, it can be the air strut, it can be the top of the shock absorber what's squeaking, it can be any kind of a suspension arm, the bushers, and so on and so on. So this time it was quite easy. The bush, or how you call it, the bushing, was actually worn out, and how it was tied together, the bushing was spinning inside the housing. It was making like squeaking noise, like you have a dry rubber towards the glass or something like that. So that was sorted quite easily with the two drop links. Now we're getting to the more difficult things what this vehicle required, and most of it was the coolant leak with the oil leak. Unfortunately, there was a dodgy repair from the past. Nobody knows where it was, because this gentleman just bought the vehicle. He don't own it for a very long time, and obviously there were some faults. So I'm not sure if he bought the car cheaper and he know about the faults, or they just sort of pay while he was using it. And I think he's from London. He had a bit of a problem to actually find anyone who was able to touch it and sort out the work. And I don't want to say anything bad, but unfortunately, as you see in the state of the engine, somebody was working on it before, and if you have to take it to a garage like that again, it won't actually sort out the problem. You're just gonna have coolant leaks and oil leaks, not in a week time or 2 weeks time. It will be like a bit later, but you will get them eventually. So if we do these sort of jobs, we try to replace every single gasket. Even this time it didn't work out on the first attempt. As I mentioned, there was a bit of a problem with the one of the flange, which is on top of the cylinder head. It was leaking from the middle where's the valve, but like I said, we didn't charge anyone extra. It was just, it happens, we did sort it out, and it's all good now. So obviously I think the owner of this vehicle will be quite happy to use the V8 again, because these are, with the 3-liter TDI engines, quite good cars, I must say. They're really comfortable. I do like the interior, how it all looks. It reminds me a bit of like an airplane inside, with all the buttons in the middle and stuff. And they are really lovely to drive. It's a very comfortable gearbox. The engine sounds nice. You can also do a really good consumption on these 3-liter diesels on the long journeys. And especially if you have to compare it to a 4.2 TDI or 4-liter TFSI, which was in the S8, it is basically much cheaper to run and maintain. Of course, this engine done 114,000 miles. Nobody really know the service history of it, and it needs doing. So I was owning loads of Volkswagen and Audi cars and stuff, and I must say, from my own personal some kind of expectations and some kind of personal knowledge, I must say that these cars don't really suffer with too many issues if you do the basic service. So when people are asking me like how often I'm doing oil changes, I always tell them once in a year. And because I don't do too many miles, probably 5, 6, 7, 8,000 miles, I try to keep the mileage very low to one oil change. And I think the key feature to keep the engine running sweet with no issues is to have fresh oil, which I try to tell everyone, especially if you have a really high performance vehicle. We try to even cut the interval to 3,000 miles. Reason why the oil is getting disintegrated very quickly and is running through really high heat cycles, how the engine is basically used. So you gotta be careful and keep the engine clean and fresh all the time. So these A8s actually have air suspension, which is very comfortable again, but of course when you're buying a 2014 A8, nobody is saying it has to run forever, but obviously you might have issues with the air suspension or shock absorbers, which are quite expensive, but I'm expecting people when they buy them to actually count these sort of issues, because it is 10 years old. Nobody knows where the car was before, nobody knows where it was driven, nobody knows how it was driven. So from time to time you might actually end up with these sort of faults. We actually call it tear and wear, or wear and tear, call it how you want it, but you know what I mean. I'm going back to the garage. I did test drive the car, basically. I went to Birmingham and so on and so on, so I think there's no coolant leaks or anything like that. I'm going back to the office. We have to do some calculations. How much is the A8 bill? Because I don't know. I know how much was the SQ7 bill. You will be a bit shocked, but you know what they say, you have a big powerful car, very heavy powerful car, and that means you will have a very, very big and heavy bill. So we use genuine stuff, but we'll get to it in a minute. So I'm going back to the garage, guys, and we will go through the bill, how much was the maintenance on such a vehicles. Okay guys, so I'm in the office now. Both of the cars are gone. The SQ7 was basically a non-problematic job, really. It was sort of quite easy job. The only problem what we had on the beginning was to make the air suspension, to make it work through the diagnostics. So there was a problem with the communication. There was a problem with the relay in the back, so that was replaced. Afterwards we did manage to connect the VCDS onto the diagnostic, and obviously there was a problem with the air compressor, as you've seen. So the air compressor was replaced for a genuine one. Obviously the price for a genuine one was quite high, it was quite expensive. It comes to £1,000 plus VAT, so it was almost 1,200 quid including VAT. It's not the cheapest unit. As you've seen, the third generation has a bit of a different components compared to the older one. So there's a dryer as well, so that is drying up the air humidity from the system. It should help, but I was reading quite loads of forums, and unfortunately it's not really helping too much. And some people are even saying that because of all that, somehow the bearing, what you see what fell apart, is seizing up. Again, time will tell. This was actually the first one we've done as a new generation. Most of them what we did so far was the old one, and the compressor was the first unit, was mounted on the car since 2000s, so that was sorted. The brakes, again with all the accessories, were genuine, plus the CAN buzzer mobilizer. At the moment, like I said, we are charging £399 supply and fit for the immobilizer, which is the Pro version, so you can have it on your phone as well. And of course we charge the customer 7.5 hours of labor to sort out the distant parts all the way around, sort out the electric problem with the relay, fit the compressor, do the basic settings and fit the immobilizer. So most expensive I reckon was the distant parts, and the compressor, well, I would say distant parts were more expensive really. So in total, including VAT, the owner of the SQ7 paid £3,892 for a service, let's call it. The only problem with the brakes, why they are so expensive, we were not able to actually get any aftermarket stuff for it. So we spoke with the guy, and he said, like, if you gotta go for genuine discs, I'd rather go for genuine everything than be mixing the materials, which we don't know. So you might have a different compound on the parts, and they might be squeaking, making some funny noise. And from our experience, we advise everyone that the premium genuine is the probably best option, unless you're going for a brick brake setup, which the SQ7 actually already have, unless you want to go for carbon ceramic. So the SQ7 is gone, no problemo. Now we're getting to the more problematic vehicle. From problematic I mean unexpected stuff happened during the job and after the job. So as I mentioned in the video, we are charging for the base job £3,950. That's engine removal, replace all the timing chains as you've seen, rocker cover gasket, reseal the injectors, all the sprockets, rear crankshaft seal, timing chain cover gasket, the high pressure fuel pump has some gaskets as well, put the oil filter, all the exhaust gaskets, turbo gaskets, so everything what's necessary to remove to do the timing chains is £3,950 lead material including VAT. The additional job was the automatic gearbox, which is 80 of oil, automatic gearbox, some gaskets, trainer and some plug washers.
That comes to £509. We didn't charge any extra labor to actually do the service. It was done including the timing chain service, so no extra labor was added. And then we are going to the last page of the invoice, which is additional £1,900 for a crankshaft pulley, which was almost £300, front crankshaft seal, front engine plate gasket, water pump, water flange, oil cooler, which was actually quite expensive. The whole unit as an oil cooler was £470 including VAT. Intake manifold gaskets, EGR gaskets, the oil housing with thermostat was another £270. Unfortunately, you can't get the gaskets individual, so we always replacing the thermostat with the oil filter housing. On the other hand, it's sort of good idea to replace it because the housing is thermostat at the same time, so probably something good to do. The two drop links, and we charge extra 3 hours of labor for the whole front end and the middle valley, so that was the extra 1900 quid. And the immobilizer was actually mounted onto the car as a gift, really. So the immobilizer wasn't counted into the whole labor. Because of the immobilizer, we actually had a bit of an issue with the vehicle, because the first problem was, as I mentioned, we didn't replace one of the flanges in the middle. We only replaced the gaskets, and there was a small crack from the side, so there was a leaking coolant, so that was replaced. That was probably additional 2 or 3 hours of labor, which we've done for free basically. But let's call it a warranty, it needs to be done. We just can't give a customer the car with a coolant leak and be like, okay, well, it's not our fault. So that was all sorted. Then the original immobilizer in the car was a ghost immobilizer fitted by I don't know who. The owner wasn't really happy with it because that wasn't the immobilizer, the better version. You can connect it with your phone, but it was the immobilizer. When you jump in the car, every single time you have to press buttons to actually disarm it, which was quite annoying. So even the whole code was done really funny way. You have to press buttons all over the car. I think there was in total like 8 of them to actually disarm the immobilizer, so the car will actually start and run. The owner was on the beginning like, I just want to remove it, but I told him like for free basically we will fit the immobilizer will be fit and you'll see how it goes and stuff. So he agreed. So I went to Birmingham to get it removed. And what actually happened is that both of the immobilizers are connected to lin and can somewhere in the car. And of course the fitter who was removing it, he didn't show me where it was fitted, but it was actually removed, and I took the car and we fit our immobilizer, which was fit elsewhere in the car. So everything was tested. I drove the car as you've seen, and once the owner came down here, we went for a drive even together. And once he left, or he tried to left, the car actually broke down on the end of the road. So I come down there and I thought something happened with our immobilizer, because it was acting like nothing was going on. So everything was basically off. Even the interior lights didn't work, absolutely nothing, completely dead. So I thought a ground wire or something silly with the electric would be probably done. So I walked down to the road, I checked it, I couldn't find anything wrong with it really. The other thing was we really didn't want to push it because the handbrake was on and we couldn't release it. So it was a tricky situation. So I took basically all my tools down the road and we tried to sort it out, but I even plugged it on an extra jump pack to have a more electric supply, which didn't help. So that means something was going on inside with the electrics. Couldn't even plug it on the diagnostic because the ignition was off. So then I thought like the only thing what's actually controlling everything, all the energy supply around the car, is the body control module. And I start digging around the body control module, and I find out that the ghost immobilizer was actually plugged onto the wiring to the body control module, but however the guy who was removing it, he just chopped off the wires and he didn't isolate them properly, and he just put them together and closed it up. So what happened, how the car was moving a bit and the wiring managed to touch together, it actually break a fuse, and the car completely stopped. So the body control module didn't actually react when you opened the doors or anything. So that was sorted quite easily, and off he went. Like I said, the Audi A8, he bought it recently. He bought it quite cheap, what I was told. So all this, what was actually done, was necessary after 9 years of driving the car and over 100,000 miles. So it was mostly like maintenance. The oil leaks and coolant leaks are quite known on the V6 TDIs, especially around the oil cooler and all this plastic stuff. So that was sorted. The gearbox service is a service on the end of the day, and the change was requested by the owner as a prevention replacement. So in total he spent £6,500 for an Audi A8, but yeah, still quite lots of money. So I'm really hoping that the car's driving fine now and there's no other issues. So anyways, you've got a 1-year warranty from us, whatever we've done, same as any other car really, and I'm really hoping he will manage to do some miles on it. So that's all from the video, guys, all the prices you've seen. And I must say, especially the SQ7 is a car which is quite expensive even to maintain and do a basic service. The A8, unfortunately, after the years and a poor service history, you never know where the car was. It's quite expensive to maintain as well when it's getting almost 10 years old. But I think it will easily do another 100,000 miles after all this and should be all good. So thank you for watching another very long video. We will see you in the next video, probably fixing something, breaking something, you never know. And we'll see you in the next one. Take care for now, thanks for watching again, and see you later.